I die. Legacy. Here lies Benji Alexander. He was a catalyst and a steward of national revival in Aotearoa, New Zealand, that overflowed to every nation. This revival was unlike any other, because the wineskin for this revival was divine family. Because that was the wineskin, the wine was never spilt. Small hubs of divine family began to emerge in Aotearoa like mushrooms. These families released thousands of seeds of divine family. This produced a viral outbreak of sonship on the planet, ultimately shifting normal on the face of the earth forever. As this viral outbreak of sonship swept the earth, humanity began to rediscover their true identity as those made in the image of the Trinity. As inadequacy, shame, self-hatred, condemnation, and isolation was swept away, this army of warrior sons of God, Ngā Toa o Te Atua, stepped into an unprecedented state of divine union. Seamless union with the Trinity crashed over humanity like a tidal wave of bridal intimacy. Face-to-face intimacy with the Trinity restored to humanity the blueprint of their identity. As they saw themselves in the Father's eyes, they began to understand who they had always been. Wave after relentless wave of perfect divine love washed over humanity and brought this global kingdom family to the place where they became fully persuaded that they were exclusively defined by the Trinity. Humanity became fully persuaded of their sonship and rose up like never before. Humanity rose up and fulfilled Isaiah 60 like no generation before them as they manifested the glory of God. Many of them transfigured as the glory shone right through their skin. Humanity rose up in love. Finally, humanity began to out-dream darkness. Humanity's capacity to dream was brought into divine alignment, and sons began to dream with the Father like never before. Sons began to dream that heaven's finest could flood every sphere of influence in society in every nation. Aotearoa, New Zealand became a pioneer nation, a prototype nation, a forerunner nation, a catalyst nation of unprecedented revival. The sons of Aotearoa began to dream for every sphere of influence in society. Their dreams manifested and broke forth into systemic revival. The very infrastructure of the nation of Aotearoa was transformed. As sons rose up in the 7 mountains of religion, family, business, government, education, arts and entertainment, and media, heaven flooded in like never before. Sons walked with such love, honor, favor, fun, creativity, ecstasy, and power that they began to effortlessly multiply and arise. This divine kingdom family, glistening with purpose, began to find themselves elevated to the places of leadership in every realm of influence. The church in Aotearoa became the most glorious manifestation of family that the world had ever seen. Kristen Williams' dream of the fivefold churches matured and was seen modeled in all of the 5,000 churches that he planted across the earth. Aotearoa cracked the code of Ephesians 4 and built prototypes of fivefold churches throughout the nation. These fivefold churches grew in their grace to reveal the Father, to raise up sons, and to build divine family. In the early days of the revival, when people still had broken families and father wounds to recover from, these fivefold churches became a one-stop transformation shop where every form of brokenness, deception, and oppression were effortlessly redeemed. The DNA of heaven was established in every aspect of the government. The nation was governed by sons with supernatural wisdom and creativity, which met national issues with divine solutions. Abundance of every description swept the land. Aotearoa's GNP, gross national profit, rose to become it rose to become among the 5 highest gross national profits in the world. The government began to tithe 10% of the GNP exclusively to missions. The government created a department devoted to giving away money to other nations and kingdom causes, but the government could still not keep up with the generosity of the church. The world wondered how such a small nation could generate such huge profits. The answer was divine creativity. Inspired by Lynn Packer's book, the nation stepped into an inheritance of divine creativity in science, business, government, sport, health, music, film, writing, painting, dance, sculpture, farming, and more types of creativity and technology than you could imagine. Thousands of inventions flowed from heaven. Angels were regularly seen walking the streets or gathering in the sky to join in with the constant sound of worship. It became common for people to encounter angels who gave them heavenly blueprints containing wisdom to solve problems or to create brand new inventions. Billions of dollars a day flowed out into the nations as the sons of Aotearoa outdreamed darkness in every corner of the planet. Not only did finance flow like a river, so did the sons, so did the glory, so did heaven, so did the signs, wonders, and miracles, and so did the revelation of sonship and divine family. Aotearoa stepped into its long prophesied identity of the land of the long, light, glory cloud. And the greatest manifestation of the Shekinah glory to ever be seen manifested in Aotearoa and came to settle as a habitation. Throughout the nation, the sounds of heaven, the sounds of love, the sounds of worship never stopped day or night. In every town and city, every nation on the planet came to witness what the Trinity had done. There was no man. There was no denomination. There was no single group that could take credit for what had been accomplished in this nation. It was obviously the hand of God moving among the people, accomplishing His dreams among His family. As in Solomon's day in 1 Kings 5 verse 4, so it was said of Aotearoa, there is no Satan. Every family thrived. Every region thrived. Every sphere of society thrived and took world-leading roles in the 7 mountains globally. The nation developed a reputation for being ruthless towards darkness. If even the rumor of injustice reached the shores of Aotearoa, thousands of people rallied around a cause and a vision plan was developed to bring systemic transformation to the issues perpetuating injustice. Then heaven's finest love was exported en masse to every place of need and every corner of the earth. Kiwis went to every part of the planet carrying the revelation of the Father, the revelation of sonship, and the revelation of divine family. Aotearoa, New Zealand, was forever synonymous with the greatest nation of lovers in world history. It never stopped. It went on from generation to generation, from nation to nation. This viral outbreak of sonship changed normal on the face of the earth forever as it fulfilled the until prophesied in Ephesians 4:13. Benji lived his life for this dream. It was the angel that he saw in the marble, and like Michelangelo, he carved until he set it free. It will forever be said of Benji that he stewarded every resource at his disposal to reveal the Father, to raise up sons, and to build divine family. He lived with an overwhelming sense of significance, which fueled his days with the type of passion that writes history and leaves a legacy for generations to come. It must be said that he had copious amounts of fun pursuing his God-given dreams together with his family. They thrived together. Benji lived every day overwhelmed by the delight of the Trinity and overwhelmed with delight in the Trinity, which produced a moment-by-moment state of being of ecstasy, bliss, wonder, and awe. Benji's wife was one of the hottest women that ever lived. They shared phenomenal adventures, had ridiculous amounts of fun together. They lived on a farm in their dream house, which they designed. They always had more than enough, and Alana drove a convertible. They loved each other the way the Trinity loved them, with extravagance and overwhelming delight. They said, wow, and thank you, a lot. In Benji's last moments, he reflected on his beloved nation and felt the same sense of satisfaction that Michelangelo had felt over 500 years before him as he looked at the finished product of his marble angel. All that had been accomplished was beyond what he had ever imagined. He thought of the sacrifices that he had made for the sake of Aotearoa's destiny, the risks he had taken throughout his life, the prayers he had prayed, the prophecies he declared, the dreams he had dreamed, the effort he poured out, the people he had loved, and the breakthroughs they had seen. Overwhelmed with gratitude, love, awe, bliss, wonder, and ecstasy, Benji left his body behind, embarking on yet another great adventure. He's a genius. Oh, man, I love you, John. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want? Now, you can actually have whatever you want. I love what Dave Riddell says. He says, he's like, man, I want to tell you a secret. You ready for a secret? How do you get whatever you want? Do whatever it takes. And if we're not willing to do whatever it takes, it just shows us that we don't really want it. And that's one thing I loved about what Norm said today. Just not happy. Not happy with status quo. Want more. There's got to be more. And Papa's like, do you really want it? Yes. Are you going to do whatever it takes? No. Well, then you don't want it. But he didn't say no. He said, yes, I'll do whatever it takes. And he's like, oh, good. You can have it then. Same for us. You can have whatever you want. You just have to do whatever it takes. But the big question is, what do you actually want? What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want written on your gravestone? What do you want your legacy to be? I love this saying, love outdreams darkness. Oh, this guy wrote it. Love outdreams darkness. It's not love can outdream darkness. That's just what love does. It's not like, love is not straining to outdream darkness. That's just the nature of love. Love just outdreams darkness. So, I've got some question marks here. Right. So, image of God. The reason I've got image of God here first is because our understanding of who God is determines who we believe we are, because we're made in His image. So, when we come to discover if we don't know that God is love, if we are confused about that, if we aren't fully persuaded, say fully persuaded. If we aren't fully persuaded that God is love, we'll never be fully persuaded of who we really are. And this is one of the big things. Like, this is probably the number one belief that has produced generation after generation after generation of orphans. Spiritual orphans, people that don't understand who they already are, is that we haven't believed who God is. We haven't believed that He's that good, and we haven't believed that He genuinely is love through and through, top to bottom, inside out. You cut Him, He bleeds love. That's who He is. But when we are fully persuaded of that, and we discover that's who He is, then we ourselves discover, wow, this is who I am. I am love. And we take our values from our identity. We take our values from our identity. What this will do, as we grasp it, is it actually executes apathy. It executes apathy. But church just tries to deal with apathy by obligation. Oh, we've come to this place of apathy. I know, we'll solve it with more obligation. Then you'll get stuff done. We'll, show more pictures of Africa to try and motivate people to be more obligated to do stuff. But obligation produces resentment. So the more obligation we have, we were already kind of burnt out, but that's going to increase our burnt out. And now we're burnt out and resentful, and we're just sick of it. When you stop telling me to do stuff? But we're not designed to run on obligation. We're designed to run on passion. And what I'm dreaming of tonight is a dreaming of an awakening of passion and an awakening of the fire of passion inside of us, because that's what deals with apathy. If you want to deal with apathy, don't even talk about apathy. Talk about significance. Because when we discover significance, that passion is awakened. If you want to deal with apathy, find significance. If you want to find passion, find significance. And significance gives birth to passion. So, if we discover that who God is, He's love, we're love, our values become love, right. Question for you. What expression of evil is love okay with? We've got none over there. Anyone else? How does love feel about famine? No? Love is not okay with famine. How does love feel about child abuse? Oh, no, not that one. Famine, maybe, but child abuse? No. No, love has no toleration. There's no expression of evil that love is okay with. So when you discover that God is love and you discover your own identity, it produces this value of love. And if you'll actually connect the dots of your value system with the world you live in, it will produce a vision which is to completely remove anything that is evil on the planet. when you discover who you are, there is no option in your value system but to develop a vision for global revival. The global annihilation of darkness is what I like to say. That's love's dream. That's how love operates. Love always outdreams darkness because love believes there's a better, brighter future for everyone. Love believes there's a better, brighter future for you. Love believes there's a better, brighter future for the person trapped in a human trafficking situation. Love believes there's a better, brighter future for a nation that's in poverty and full of chaos because they've got no funds and they've been suffering from civil war and the whole infrastructure of their country is damaged and destroyed. Well, love outdreams darkness, and love has a better, brighter future for that nation. So the vision becomes global. And then action. Dun, dun, dun. Now, if you don't connect the fact that significance is what produces the action, fueled with passion, and sometimes people get stuck, like, I've got this value and I've got this vision, but they get stuck on the acting it out. They get stuck on, well, how do I really live that out on a day-to-day basis and actually come to this point where I fulfill the legacy that I've really been dreaming of. Come to the point where you get to have a cool epitaph like mine. Yeah. Oh gosh, I've dropped that. I had this crazy encounter in here last year. Actually, thanks guys for coming to my prayer room. It's great having you here. I've spent thousands of hours praying in here. It's very good to have you in my prayer room. And I had this encounter, probably about here, this encounter with the broken heart of God last year. And in this encounter, I had a sword, and I stabbed the sword into the ground, and I was just kneeling down, I stabbed it in like that, and then the sword began to reverberate. It wasn't physically movement, it was just reverberating. I was like, whoa, and I was vibrating, reverberating with this sword. And then as the vision kind of zoomed out, I realized I wasn't on the ground, I was on the heart of God. And I'd stabbed the sword into the chamber of the aspect of God's heart which breaks for his lost children. The broken heart of the father that's longing for his kids to come home. And as my sword went in there, it began to reverberate with it. And as I held fast onto the sword, I shifted from reverberating with the frequency of the broken heart of God to transmitting the frequency of the broken heart of God. It became an atmospheric transfer as the frequency of the broken heart of God was transferred. It was transmitted into the atmosphere. It became an impartation of this frequency of the broken heart of God. And I shared that in Sydney last year, and a friend of mine, Mark Steen, he died a while ago. He was riding his bike along at night, and he rode into the back of a van with a ladder out the back, and the ladder just went right into the back of his head, and he fell off his bike. He's dying, and as the spirit's leaving his body, right, and it's just kind of mangled head, as the spirit's leaving the body and he's ascending into heaven, a truck ran over his head. There was brains everywhere. There was brains all over the place. And he's watching that as he goes to heaven. He had a Narnia experience, basically. He spent 5 years in heaven. He spent the equivalent of 5 years in heaven. Just like in Narnia, they went through the wardrobe and then time was different. 5 years in heaven. And during that time, he saw so many crazy things. But he came up to me afterwards, like after I'd shared that. He was like, dude. Sorry. Oh, yeah, he didn't die. So yeah, okay. So I'll give you a little bit more context. So, they take his body to the hospital. Anyway, he gets resurrected. His brain still doesn't work. His brain is presently dead. It doesn't function at all. He lives supernaturally. They test his brain. Actually, he was like his parents, when he was in the unconscious, signed these waivers, signed these forms, and this doctor from the States kind of basically took control of his life because of all these medical forms that had been signed. And the only way he got out of it was there was this random fire in the hospital that burnt up all the records of it, and he got free of all these legal obligations of the doctor because he just wanted to keep doing all these tests on him because his brain doesn't work, but he's alive. He has to stay in the presence to survive. Anyway, so he was at the conference. He's a crazy worship leader too. Like when he worships, and I was there at the conference, there's just like bananas there. Because while he's playing, even if he holds a string, sometimes these, like the sounds of angels, like through the room. You're like, what the heck? It's crazy. And because you know him and know his story, you know you're hearing the sounds of heaven and the sounds of angels busting into the room around him. It's crazy awesome. Anyway, he came up and he said, look, 20 years ago, it took him a long time as well when he came back just to kind of reorientate, He said, 20 years ago when I was in heaven, I saw an encounter taking place. He saw heaps of things while he was there. I saw an encounter taking place 20 years ago. I saw that encounter taking place 20 years ago. And the person in the encounter that I saw 20 years ago was you. Like, whoa. But there is an aspect of the heart of God that is broken for his lost children to come home. And the purpose of the encounter is that the Father doesn't want us detached from that aspect of his heart. He wants us to walk carrying that aspect of his heart. And in our awareness, not just like, it's like in the kind of back of the garage, sometimes I go out there and just check on it. He wants it to be something that is living inside of us, that we would walk, that we would live, that we would carry a value for what the Father values. Well, the things that break the Father's heart would break our heart. This crazy thing that the Trinity's infinite value for every person leaves them very, very vulnerable. The Trinity's infinite value for you leaves them very vulnerable if you decide not to participate in the seamless union that they desire and crave every moment of every day. And so when the kids are having a bad day, or worse, when the kids are having a terrible life and chaos is ruling and reigning and bringing destruction and terror and tearing lives to pieces, that causes this huge heartache. Just like any of us would feel if one of our kids got snatched from us and thrown into torment. And we were watching them just outside of our grasp. And the Father wants us to be carrying this consciousness of his passion, of his longing for his lost kids. And the Trinity have this aspect of the heart of God. What it does, it's like it produces this shameless passion in the Trinity that cries out for their lost children. It's not a dignified cry. It's like the deep cries out to deep. It's like this bitter wailing of like this pure love that's extremely vulnerable, that's been violated, but it longs with a relentless passion. And the Trinity comes to the other kids who've drunk gallons and gallons of heaven and know who they are and says, family, I love you, but I want you to carry my heart for the rest of the family. I want the lost sons and daughters coming home. And when the Trinity sees, if we go back in time, close to 30 years, not quite 30 years, but if we went back in time, nearly 30 years ago, and we would have watched the Trinity's response to Marina's life, the heartbreak of the Trinity as they watched every day what was happening there. So Marina's mum worked as a prostitute for the mafia. They grew up in a one-bedroom apartment. One bedroom, then eating, living, dining room, one other room. She was the oldest of 3 kids. Every day, multiple guys would come in, rape, abuse, beat her mother, up to 10 at a time. Not sure, that are large numbers anyway, and daily. And that just drove her mum to a desperate place where the only way she could cope was consuming large amounts of alcohol to try and subdue the pain. Marina's outside trying to look after her 2 younger siblings, her younger brother and her younger sister, while this is all going on just behind one small door. Her mum comes out, drinks herself crazy, and beats Marina relentlessly. And the heart of the Trinity breaks, not like casually. Like, we are so good at casual, guys. We, like, as a nation, Aotearoa, we are masters of casual. And in the right moment, that is divine. We're so relaxed, we're so good at having fun, and that reveals the Father to the nations that have no idea what to do with fun. That is divine, but only if it's in balance. If we're just all casual, all the time, and we never embrace and engage and come to resonate with the Father's heart for the rest of the family that's under absolute siege by chaos and darkness. So Papa's wanting to really release an impartation of his heart for us, that we would actually carry the significance of his heart. And when we catch significance, there is a world of passion that can open up inside of us. And we have undervalued passion. We have undervalued passion. Passion is one of the most valuable resources at our disposal. If you are flooded with passion, you can master this action part. Obligation won't work here. It'll produce burnout and resentment. Only significance works here, and only passion works here. The Trinity are not casual about their children being abused. The Trinity are crying out with desperate, shameless passion for their children. A casual response to that type of vulnerability would not be appropriate. Could you imagine if you're in an encounter in heaven and Papa called you into the lounge? Hey, come have a cuppa. You're in the lounge, nice fireplace, comfy. And things kind of go quiet. Oh, this is interesting. This is going quiet. Like, normally we kind of party atmosphere with Papa. You kind of turn your head around just to see why the change in atmosphere? Why not the party atmosphere just now? And you start to see the Father's tears rolling down his cheeks. And he's making a good job of holding it together, but his eyes can't hold it back. His eyes can't hold back the emotion of his broken heart. And he's, in a sense, holding back a little bit for your sake. So he's not sure how you'll deal with his heart just at the moment. But you take a risk and he takes a risk and you say, Papa, what's going on? And he gets transparent and just pure vulnerable with you. And the trickle turns to a river. The father becomes snotty as his heart is breaking and he is expressing his love and his desire, his unfulfilled desire, his unfulfilled passion, his unfulfilled longing that his children would walk in relationship with him and ultimately that they would be thriving. Ultimately that all of his kids would be thriving. And as you're watching him, you look real close into his eyes and you can just see the raw emotion in his eyes. And then you just turn on the TV. My point is a casual response to a shameless cry an appropriate response? And if we did respond like that, it wouldn't seem appropriate, would it? It would be excusable if we were little. If we weren't really mature, it would be kind of excusable and almost a little bit funny. In hindsight, like you can imagine. In fact, I don't even have to imagine. I had this experience once where I told one of the kids in the church here. They asked me a question about something. I told them a story about how my pet dog, Rusty, died. He was like my dog for like 14 years, and I actually was one of the few times in my life that I was like tearing up. And so I tell this little girl in our church this emotional story of mine. I'm pretty vulnerable with it. And I get to the end of the story, and she looks at me, kind of like just blinks a couple of times, and just laughs in my face. I was like, it's actually kind of funny because she was little, and she kind of didn't really get the context. It's like, oh, my best mate was there, and he still teases me. He saw it happen. He's like, ah. And so it's kind of funny when it comes from like a little kid, but if we're mature, if we're actually mature sons and we're wanting to have a really mutual relationship with Papa, and that's our response, that doesn't seem appropriate. And in this message, I want to miss obligation by 1,000,000 miles. The last thing that any of us needs is more obligation and more burnout and more religion and more self-righteousness and do we, just out of a wrong understanding of why we live and do what we do. Casual response is not appropriate. The message is called I Saw an Angel. And I really like that saying, the future belongs to those who dream. The future belongs to those who dream. And I love it because love outdreams darkness. So I would say the future belongs to love. Anyway, this is Michelangelo's angel in the marble, carved 1594 to 1595. Oh. His quote is, I saw an angel in the marble and I carved until I set him free. He's just looking at a big rock. He's just looking at a great big rock. I saw an angel in the marble and I carved until I set him free. So, when I was 18, I saw my angel. I was just sitting on a couch, and I watched the Transformations documentary of nations and cities experiencing these revivals that were just phenomenal. I'd never seen anything like it because my upbringing was in the context of religion. So this is basically my sum total understanding of revival is what I just got from this documentary that I just watched. Something in my spirit stirred. No flashing lights, no radical encounter, but I saw my angel. In my spirit, I knew I was born for revival. And I was going to see revival, national revival in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And some callings, God has to arm wrestle you for. And other ones, it's already the desire of your heart before He even presented it to you. And it matches like magnets that just go. It was effortless. And I was like, this, whatever this is, I want to give my life for this. And so at 18, Aotearoa, my beloved nation, became my big block of marble. I love all the other nations, but this prototype nation, this catalyst nation, this forerunner nation, this is my block of marble. I can see an angel in this marble. And what I read out to you earlier, that's my angel. You can see what Michelangelo's angel looks like. This is what my angel looks like. I saw an angel in the marble. And from the time I was 18, I started carving. I started researching revival, doing what I could. I actually lived in a really religious context, so I couldn't. Anyone I asked good questions about gave me the same dumb answer, and it was actually just went round in circles. And no one, and everyone that I knew, thought the same, because all my friends are all kind of in the same religious circle, the same denomination, that all thought the same and had no answers for me. So I spent a long time trying to figure out what is revival. So I got a hold of some books. My dad started getting me some Yonggi Cho books. So at 18, I started reading Yonggi Cho books on prayer and fasting, and this guy's amazing. And the revival that broke out in Korea. Korea went from a nation, a fully Buddhist nation, where the first missionaries there that went there got beheaded, and if you got caught with a Bible, you got beheaded. And it was a missionary graveyard in the sense that there was just dead missionaries everywhere, martyrs everywhere. It went from that to basically 50% Christian. Now, like if you go to South Korea now, and if you go up in a high hotel and look out over Seoul, over the city in Seoul, it's just crosses everywhere, and those are like marking churches. I was like, whoa, millions of people met Jesus. And when I was there in 2007, they were having 1,000 days of prayer to celebrate a centenary of revival. 1,000 days of prayer. Just as a celebration. I found out about this guy, James Fraser. And James Fraser, he had everything going for him. He was a really bright guy. He was a concert pianist. He was a real handsome fella. He was, engineering degree, and he was like one of these guys that were just like the cream of the crop, And people were like watching him and go, whoa. And then he felt the call of God to give his life for missions. And he went to the Yunnan province in China. He spent time in China, and it was Burma at that stage as well. And he ministered, eventually he got to minister to the Lisu people from 1911 to 1916. He prayed, he fasted his guts out. He went through depression, he went through all sorts. He'd share the gospel. And the cool thing about Yunnan for me is where he was in Yunnan, it's like Fiordland. And it's these hill tribe people that I can't even, like, the hill's just like, it's like crazy, but they got like all these rice paddies and they got their villages just on the side of these epic mountains. Like, whoa. But he prayed for 5 years and almost nothing happened. But then from 1916 to 1918, the Holy Spirit started moving out of these just rugged, remote, wild valleys. And in 2 years, they baptized 60,000 Lisu. No texts, no emails, just moved by the Spirit. Baptized 60,000 Lisu. And then when the Chinese Communist government took over, pretty much it was like in the high 90s of the percentage of the Lisu people group that were Christian. So the only people group that the Chinese Communist government recognizes as Christian. I'm like, whoa! So what was I doing studying revival? I was carving out my angel. I had to get a grid for what revival could look like. I was carving out my angel. So you know what? I went to South Korea. I went to Yoido Prayer Mountain. I went there. What was I doing? I was carving my angel. I went to the Lisu hill tribes and just looked at this place. It was actually really funny going to cross-cultural places. Things are so different. You can hear a cross-cultural ministry story? Here's a cross-cultural ministry story, whether you like it or not. I'll just give it to you now. So it's Easter. We went there at Easter, and so we're in this village at Easter, and so these people are coming from all these hill tribes from all around the place and converging on this one village. They're down for a morning service. We didn't have to go to that morning service. It was quite early, and so I was like, oh, yeah, sweet. So now's my moment, because they kind of like, the toilets there, it's like this shack type thing, like there's sticks put together, but they're not like that private. They're just sticks put together. And then you go into the shack, and I'm like, oh, great. Right, where's the toilet? There isn't a toilet, because normal over there is a trough, and it's just as many bums as can squeeze in, fit together along that trough. And so I was like, everyone's in church, and I have to go, so this is my moment. I was really happy that I'd bought gumboots, right? So I go up there, I go up to the toilet, and in the night, someone had so here's the doorway into this little shack. I'm about to pass into the wharepaku, and then, is that library or is that toilet? Wharepaku, that is toilet. It's good. What's library? Where I went to Polytech, they had them written on beside each other on the same sign. Wharepuka for. Anyway, there I was, stepping through the threshold, and someone in the night had pooed that way across the threshold. I was like, where the heck am I in the world? Like, who does that? The toilet's right there. It's right there. So I'm like, oh, that's gross. Step over that bad boy. And I'm like, oof. There's the wall, but you've kind of still got a view. So I'm like, all right then. Position myself. It's kind of awkward for me. I do not have the Asian squat mastered. I'm far from that. And just as I'm kind of getting to the point of no return, ding, 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 the church bell goes. It's all wrapped up. And there's this tribe of ants, there's people like ants, come running up to the toilet. I was like, can't go anywhere. And so it's just all these bros line up like, hey bro. I'm like, oh, hey bro. My first ever communal poo experience. But it's all right, I was with revivalists, so. What was I doing when I was squatting on that mountainside? Carving out my angel. When I was at Yoido Prayer Mountain, they have 3,000 people a day turn up for prayer. That's on a weekday. That's that's not the weekend. The weekend's 20,000. And I remember just kind of going for a walk and listening to one of their, I think she was probably just some house mum praying. She was praying like thunder. It was like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this? I've never even seen a pastor in New Zealand pray like that. And this lady is like, I was like, should I hide? What's going on? Anyway, when I was there and I was praying, I was already in a place where I was given, like a couple of hours a day to prayer, because every day I was carving out my angel. Carving out my angel. But when I was there, the Lord said to me, would you give me 3 hours a day? And I was like, I'll get back to you. It wasn't like, you were born for revival. Yes! I love that calling. It was like, would you pray for 3 hours a day? I was like, well, I'll actually have to get back to you, because I have to think about this, because that means that if you ask me to devote my life to intimacy like that, then I have to turn my back on a regular life, because I'm not a superhero and I have to have some sleep at some stage. And I know what you're asking me for is a life devoted to intimacy. So I'm going to have to get back to you on that one, just to see if I'm legit, because I don't want to give you a fake agreement. Yeah, God. God told me to come to your church and just serve. Yeah, but that was 2 weeks ago. I think God changed his mind. I don't want to do that. Like, no, if I'm in, I'm in. And so it was about a week later, we travelled from Yoido Full Gospel. I was now in a place called Nakhon which means the city of heaven. And I was like, yep, I'm in. I'm in, Papa. And so from that time there, that was February, March 2007. So from March 2007 to May the 29th, 2010, which was the day I got married, I didn't miss a single day of at least 3 hours a day with the Lord. And for a little while I got a little bit self-righteous out of that and took a little bit of identity out of it. But there's a real price to pay. But the thing is, I was like, man, I'm carving out my angel every day, Lord. I'm carving out my angel with you every day. And I knew when he asked of it, I was like, man, I've heard stories like this. I've heard of people like this before that pray like that, what you're asking me for. And they do crazy things with their lives. Like, that ends up happening like that. It ends up like they just do radical, world-transforming things. I'm like, is that what you're asking of me? Is that what you want? I once had someone say to me, if you want to build a skyscraper, you don't start by going up, you start by going down. You dig the foundations. The higher you want to go, the deeper you dig. Not the digger you deep. The deeper you dig. So I just started digging like that. And then when it was coming up to my wedding, I was just envisioning the honeymoon, right? And, see, babe, I'll be back in a bit. 3 hours or so later, oh, hey! So I just like, hey, Papa, I just wanted to check in with you on this. If that's how it is, like, sweet. I'm like, I'm okay if that's what you want, but I just want to clarify. And he's like, it's all right, son, life as you know it is over. Because he said for the rest of my life, and I said yes for that. And so if that's what he wanted, I was okay. But I just wanted to clarify. He's like, no, life as you know it is actually now over. Well done. And he just slightly readjusted it. So now it's usually kind of 5 days a week and a couple of days a week where I have family time. But it's still, the call didn't change of a life devoted to intimacy. And I knew that meant turning my back on other career choices, other things like that I might have wanted to do, meant just a life laid down for intimacy. And then he called me. Actually, I worked for a church for a while. I worked for a church for a while. This is slightly before this missions trip. And got pretty beat up by nasty, churchy, religious stuff. Pretty smashed up. I needed a bunch of time to heal up, and my dad was awesome for that. He really coached me through this awesome healing process after being spiritually abused. And then, once it was kind of done, like the last bit of mess was tidied up, he's like, sweet, I need to go now full-time pursuing the dream. Full-time pursuing the dream. And part of the dream for me at the beginning was setting up an international adventure camp, an international Christian adventure camp, which is what got me located geographically in Fiordland, because there's no better place in the world to set up that adventure camp, which we will set up. There's no better place in the world for it than here. That's how God specifically got me geographically located here in Fiordland, which caused all these divine appointments to be connected with all these people. I lost my train of thought there, which is rude. He said, devote yourself, go full-time pursuing the dream. So I went full-time pursuing the dream, and when I first started pursuing the dream, my support was $25 a fortnight. Well, that's heaps. And $20 of that a fortnight went to my sponsored kid in Africa. I was like, Sidha, you better like that rice, boy. You get 4 times as much as I'm getting right now. Rice ain't that cheap in New Zealand, and I don't like eating it at that point in my life. So I was like, whoa, but what was I doing? Carving out my angel. So it was 6 years of just trusting God for finance and working without a wage, but there was not one drip of obligation on it. Not one drip of obligation on it, but every day burning passion. Passion like a raging fire. And sometimes I pray 8 hours a day, a couple of times 12 hours a day, just giving myself just to this call for national revival. And mainly what he was doing was just going deep in me. I was like, man, I actually want to see signs, wonders, and miracles. I want to see this. But I had a religious context, all my mindsets, my belief system, just ridiculous religion everywhere. I was totally disqualified as like a state of being. That was my state of being, disqualified from anything good. But do lots of stuff anyway. I was trying to work my way out of this religious thing. I had an angel that was kind of leading me. I was guiding. I was following this angel out of religion. But I was like, I prayed and fasted, not every day because I might have died, but I prayed and fasted for 6 years before I saw my first miracle. I was like, what am I doing? I'm carving out my angel. Carving out my angel. I'm going after it. I want this bad. I want it. And then Papa gives a dream to start revival school Aotearoa in New Zealand. I'm like, yes, what an awesome idea. Yes, Papa. And so I'm like, yeah, totally. So we launch out and just take risks all over the place and still not even working, still working for no wage and busting our guts and taking, faith, massive faith, things that Papa gives us these challenges and we don't know how we're going to fund them or do anything. We're just like, yeah, that's flipping awesome. There's nothing we want more. And this massive yes despite challenge, despite all the what ifs, despite, that might not work out, might not. Yes, Papa. Yes, Papa. This great big yes to the call despite all the maybes, what ifs, it might not work out. Why? Why does that work? Why can you just give yourself to it without ever feeling obligated? And just with a burning heart for it. And when nothing's even exists yet. I remember shortly after I first came to Te Anau, I'm like, wow, here I am. I'm in Te Anau. Our church is there was 5 of us for the launch, that started the launch thing. And then 2 of them moved to Christchurch to be closer to their family. It was pretty lonely. There's no young people in sight. There's hardly anything happening. And to be honest, our church and everyone that did come, it was just the walking wounded. We were like the walking dead. It was a picture of what church was like when we first started. It was just imagine this dirty, old, scrappy military medic tent, right? And just the front lines where there's just chaos everywhere and bodies everywhere and wounded. And we were just oh no, there's wounded, get them to the medic tent. And you just kind of stack them up in there on top of themselves. But there's no medic in there. It's that's all we had, It was that's it. There's no resources. There's no people. There's just brokenness everywhere. Okay, right. So, but we just keep on chipping away at it. And what are we doing? We're carving out our angel. We're carving out our angel every moment. It's whoa, there's a lot of challenges right now. And I remember walking down the street, and for a moment my mind almost went into loneliness. And he's like, whoa, don't do that. And he just, there's no one else around. There's no one my age, really. And, just John, which is you don't need much more company when you've got, the company you've got is awesome. It's like, yeah, this is mint. We're living the dream. Hey, like, go hunting, and because we didn't actually have much to do because there was like no resources and not many people. It's like, oh, yeah, it's good days. Forgot what I was saying again, which is kind of unusual. Oh, thank you so much. You saved me. Yeah, my heart was leaning into loneliness for a moment, and he said, hey, don't go there. And you know what he did? He just reminded me of the angel. And he said, no, you just enjoy it now. Just start dreaming it right now. Just start seeing it right now. And what I see before my eyes right now supersedes what I dreamed 9 years ago. And you know, he gave me this awesome word a number of years ago, and he said this to me, because my whole life is just about being dreams, and most of my life they haven't manifested, and they're still far from manifesting. But he said to me this to encourage me as I was pursuing radical dreams. He said, live each day like all your wildest dreams have already come true. And he's like, yeah, it's just because I'm that faithful, I'm that good. I'm that good that you can live every day like all your wildest dreams have already come true. I'm like, like that's just an explosion of ecstasy for me when I think of like, wow! But when we're dreaming out, when we're walking through hard times, just carving out our angel every day. Carving it out, carving it out, carving it out. Found myself in Thailand, in the red light districts, going through, seeing this places, all this pedophile action taking place, people from all around the world trafficked, just craziness. You know, government conspiracies are part of it, like global mafia networks in on it, wars and like international conflict, all these crazy things fueling this just melting pot of chaos. And I'm going in there, like, seeing where 2-year-olds are being sold for sex. I'm like, oh my gosh, just like breaks me. And I'm like, trying to figure out how to process one of my first deep encounters with the broken heart of God, trying to figure out how to process, how to respond, how to deal with this. Feel my heart turning in towards despair. And then while I was turning in towards despair, because I'm just like, I feel so insignificant. It was like the giants of darkness gathered around me to say I was insignificant. There's nothing you could ever do that will bring any change. You're insignificant. And the concept of engaging with insignificance was turning my heart to despair. Just even in a few hours. Believing that lie that I was insignificant began turning my heart towards despair. And I was like, whoa, thank you, Jesus, that he showed me another angel. He gave me this vision of an army of revivalists coming from Aotearoa, New Zealand, into the darkest places on the face of the earth, bringing down the giants of darkness. And now I'm like, whoa, now I've got another angel to carve out. Now I've got this beautiful rock right here, and this beautiful rock right here, Aotearoa, is so much bigger now than just what it was, because now this is the greatest mission-sending organization on the planet. Yes! So now I'm carving out my angel, which is the greatest mission-sending organization on the planet, and it's going to export revivalists to every nation on the face of the earth, and we're going to bring down the giants of darkness, not just with like little encounters here and there. No, we're going to bring absolute, total, systemic transformation into nations, top, down, bottom, up, inside and out, heaven. Even this conference is carving the angel. He's like, run this conference, get those guys together. Bring everyone together. There's something I want to do for the nation. I want to knit hearts together. I want to infuse people with the dream. I want to empower. I want to encourage. I want to do something that this nation hasn't seen before in this conference. And we're like, oh yeah, sweet. Looks like that's going to be great. It's going to cost thousands of dollars, and it's going to be awesome. Doesn't actually make sense, but I'm like, yes, Papa! What a great idea! What a great way to carve out our angel. What a great way to carve out our angel. I'm all in. I'm all in. Then he brings the opportunity for partnering with the church in Tajikistan to build a house of shalom for survivors of human trafficking and at-risk women and children. I'm like, wow! If you connect this with the broken heart of God, you just maybe go back to that visualization, that picture of the father in his lounge weeping and snotting and turning to his son and bearing his heart in all vulnerability and saying, this is how I feel about it. And then what could I do? What could I do but say, yes, Papa! Let's go get him! And something that I am working on trying to understand how to do this well is to be an advocate for the broken heart of the Father. How can I do that well? To stand before people with a shameless passion and say, guys, we need $200,000. Or guys, we need to take this nation. Or guys, we've got to do this event. Guys, how can I reflect well and be an accurate transmitter like I experienced in that encounter of the broken heart of the Father, this vulnerable aspect of the heart of the Father could be imparted to his mature sons, that we could carry this heart and run with significance and passion that burns us up rather than burns us out as we carve out the angels that he's shown us. Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send and who will go for us? There's a Trinity sliding in there again. Whom shall I send and who will go for us? And I said, here am I. Send me. Here am I. Send me. Look, I like it's got an exclamation mark. Not like, oh, maybe go on a fake agreement for you. Yeah, if you haven't got enough of those. No, here am I. Send me. Send me. The answer is yes. He hasn't even said what he's going to do yet. He's signed on the bottom of the page. He signed on a blank page and said, yeah, I'm all in. Isaiah 58:6. And this is the message that he brings from the heart of the Father. Is not this the kind of fasting that I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke. Whoa, Isaiah. Oh, come on, Darren. There's so much more. There's so much more, Darren. Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke. That we could do that in our beloved nation. That we could carve out our angel. That we could establish systemic transformation in every sphere of influence in this nation and turn this nation into the greatest missions organization in world history that sends out burning-hearted revivalists to every corner of the earth to bring down the giants of darkness and reveal the Father, raise up sons, and build the greatest expressions of divine family that the generations have ever seen. Isaiah 60, arise and shine. Isaiah's message from the heart of the Trinity comes forth again as he's been marked with the fire. You know, that angel, that seraphim, brought a burning coal from the altar, burnt his lips with it. He was marked by the fire of heaven. He carried this message, the heart of the Father. Break every yoke. Can you break every yoke? I don't know. And then he said, you know what? Yes, you can. Stop engaging with all those false self-judgments that disqualify you and produce inadequacy and say you can't and say there's not enough and say it's not possible. It's time to arise and shine, For your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and His glory appears over you. Isaiah 61 again. The Spirit of the sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn. Inappropriately timed cough. Proceed. And provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of His splendor. And you know what's happening? Papa's hand reached out into the nation of Tajikistan, to this place where most of Marina's friends are either dead or in prostitution. Is that about right? That's her peers. The hand of God reaches into a context where His hand should never have reached, because people dared to believe, people dared to go, people dared to pray, people dared to give, people dared to say yes to the broken heart of the Father for an unreached people group in a Muslim world. And this girl, who was on her way to commit suicide, it was her third attempt, and that day she'd saved up enough mercury so that she was not going to fail in any way. She'd failed twice already. This time she did her research. She had it all ready. She was on her way to commit suicide when a girl that she knew said, "Hey, do you want to come to church?" She'd never been to church before, never knew anything about that. And she reached out and went to church. And in that moment, Marina has this radical love encounter with the Father that begins a chain reaction that changes her life forever and produces Isaiah 61 in her life. The Spirit of the sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes. And this is what Papa has done for Marina. But you know what? So many of her peers never made it. Literally never made it. So when we see that pastor that we showed the video of this morning, and he says, we're like the people in the vision that Paul had, the people of Macedonia. Come help to us. Come help to us. The best English he's got, the best passion he can muster, in a context where they're in a war zone. If I thought we were in a war zone when we were in the early days of Te Anau, those guys are in a war zone, an extremely persecuted country, KGB, secret police, all sorts of stuff, oppression, persecution, extreme poverty right throughout the nation, chaos. And like the Macedonian vision that Paul has, come help to us. Our friend calls from Tajikistan, come help to us. And why? Oh, no, it's just some... No, why? Why is he saying, come help to us? Because there's an opportunity for us to partner with them, do something unprecedented in that part of the world. What we are planning to do will basically be the first of its kind in that whole country. It's an unreached context. And it's this process. to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord for the display of His splendor. I've basically been filled nearly every day with passion since I saw my angel. There's not many days when I'm not brimming over with passion to fight for it. Because I never let my angel go. But some people have let go of their angel. And when you let go of your angel, you lose your significance. And when you lose your significance, you lose your passion. And you're left with obligation to motivate. Some people have never seen their angel. Great news, there's angels in the room tonight. Literally and metaphorically, there's angels in the room right now. Papa wants to release an impartation of angels. An impartation of dreams that produces overwhelming significance. When we are overwhelmed with significance, we'll be able to carve the way Michelangelo carved, and we will be able to carve out our angel in this nation. All of us, thousands of us, chipping away every day with burning hearts. We'll be able to carve out our angel. But until we replace obligation with overwhelming significance, which produces burning hearts, not burnout, until we find our angel, until we become like Michelangelo, he saw an angel in the marble and he carved it and he set it free. And some of you are like, man, I've got my angel. And Papa says, you know what? It's way too small. It's way too small, your angel. And that's why you're not burning like he wants you to burn. He wants every single one of us in this place to burn way more than we're burning. And it's when it will take a lot more burning in our hearts to carve out what we've got to carve out. We don't need more time in the day. We need more fire in our hearts. We don't need more time in the day. We need more fire in our hearts. And I hope you can hear that without any trace of obligation in it. There's no obligation in this. This is just what we need to do the job that we've been called to do. I like how Maui and his brothers gave the sun a hiding. I feel like, if you guys have heard that story, to slow down the sun. Sometimes I think, man, I wish he'd just kicked it in the guts a few more times. The day's gone quick today. I love that story. But you know what? I don't need more time in the day. I need more fire in my heart. So this is what I want to... We're going to move into our commissioning now in a moment. I better take up that offering as well. An offering... This whole message was an offering message because I need some carvers to carve with me. I need some carvers who will be like Seth's dad and pick up their razor-sharp carving tools, things, chisels, their razor-sharp chisels. And thousands of us gather around this big block of marble. And thousands of us simultaneously, each carving with passion. Every stroke we take is burning with passion. Every single prayer we pray is burning with passion. Every prophecy we release is burning with passion. Every act of love is burning with passion. Everything we give is filled with passion. This is for the angel. This is for the angel. We're fighting for the angel. We're dreaming for the angel. We're praying for the angel. We're giving for the angel. We're living for the angel. We're burning for the angel. because we've seen what Papa's heart for this nation and beyond. So I'm going to do this offering in two parts. First part, we'll do cash, and we can just come and just chuck it out on the map. And this offering is for the nation. You will use a whole bunch of it to bless the ministries that have come here, but we'll use it to go beyond that as well. And when it comes to our friend in Tajikistan, when he says, come help to us, that translates as, I need 200,000 New Zealand dollars to finish this project. And then we will partner with them. They're willing to be the hands and feet on the ground to make it happen. So we've actually already got a team on site ready to roll to do all the functional side of it. And we're going to work with them, partner with them to make it happen. So when he says, come to us, come help to us, that's what he's actually praying for, because otherwise he's going to lose the land and building that they've built all that so far, and then their funding that they thought they had got pulled. They lost it. And so now he's there and he's about to lose that land. And we want to partner with him. And when it's beyond our capacity, we want to say, yeah, Papa, we're going after it. So part one, this offering's for the angel. Part two is not about cash. It's about lives laid down lovers, burning-hearted lovers. In part two, we're going to release the whole ministry team to come get you and release an impartation of vision, an impartation of dreams. And there's just going to be ministry for whatever you want at that time, but there's going to be an impartation of significance, an impartation of passion, an impartation, I believe, not just from the hands of a man, but there's going to be an impartation from heaven. The Father has an angel that he wants you to see. And if you have never seen an angel, or if you've lost your angel or let it go, he wants to give it back to you greater than it's ever been. And if you're like, I haven't lost my angel, he's like, you haven't seen your angel. It's bigger. It's bigger than what you ever thought. It looks more like 5,000 churches. It's bigger than what you've been dreaming of. As we're going to take this up, Marina is going to play a song, which is a beautiful song that she's written. So it's going to release you. Marina, you just jump up on there. I'm going to pray, and then there's FBOS down there, and if anyone would like to do direct credit, we've got a whole bunch of these cards here. They've got our bank account number on it, so if you want to do a direct credit, you can just grab one of those from here. I'll let you grab it from here so you feel like you're like jamming on the nation still. Yeah, so if you want cards, I'll just spread some of those cards out like that. They look beautiful. Papa, we thank you. Papa, we thank you that you have. If we just hold still for a moment. I just want to pray, and then we'll press go on it. You go for it, Marina. Papa, we thank you that you have begun to see us as mature enough now to hear your heart like never before. Thank you that you're seeing us now as mature sons who can carry your heart in all its facets, in all its passion, in all its vulnerability and complexity and fire. And Papa, tonight I thank you that you're releasing right now an impartation of your broken heart in this place. Papa, I thank you for that encounter that you gave me, whereas I stabbed that sword into your broken heart. And I began to resonate with the frequency of your broken heart. And then I began to be a transmitter. Papa, I ask that you would release the manifestation, the anointing, the grace on that encounter in this room. That impartation that I received in that moment will be released in this place. And that impartation of the frequency of your broken heart will begin to resonate in hearts here, that not only begin to resonate, but begin to transmit the broken heart of the Father for His lost children to come home and to thrive. And Papa, I just ask, just bless everything that we give, every action that we pour out as we seek to carve out an angel from this nation. Just take the offering of our finances, but take the offering of our lives. Baptize us in fire like never before, and let us loose like no generation that's gone before us. That we could carve out the angel that you've seen in our nation. That as every single one of us carves the angels that you're showing us, carves out the dreams, the visions that you're showing us, that we would together, thousands upon thousands of us, a growing momentum, a growing family, 10,000s and 10,000s and hundreds of thousands and then millions carved together to reveal the angel that you see. Release those dreams in our hearts, Papa. Release those visions and dreams and encounters that impart your heart and your vision for this nation, for this beloved nation of Aotearoa. Amen.